Nobody ever asks how long a driveway lasts until theirs starts falling apart. That's usually how it goes. You pull in one morning, you glance down, and the surface just looks wrong, kind of rough, kind of flaky. Like the top layer is coming off in little chips. And that's when the question shows up. So let's answer it properly. A concrete driveway that's been installed right lasts somewhere between 30 and 50 years. That's the honest range. And I want to be clear about what installed right is carrying in that sentence, because it's doing a lot of work. Here's the thing that surprises people. There are slabs poured in Wisconsin back in the 70s that are still sitting there today, taking a full-size truck every single day, no complaints. And then there are driveways poured 5 years ago that are already coming apart at the surface. Same material, same climate, wildly different outcome. So what separates those two? It really comes down to 4 things: what's underneath the slab, the mix itself and how thick it was poured, where the water goes, and whether anybody bothered to maintain it. And I'll point out right now, only that last one is still in your hands once the concrete truck pulls away. The first 3 are decided in a single day, and then they're locked in for the life of the driveway. Let's take them one at a time. The base, this is the one people never think about, and it's the number 1 reason driveways fail early. You want 4 to 6 inches of compacted gravel under that slab, compacted. Not just dumped and spread around with a rake. If the base is soft or uneven or was never properly packed down, the concrete has nothing solid to sit on. It'll settle, it'll crack, and no amount of good concrete on top saves you from a bad base. Then thickness, 4 inches is fine for regular cars, but if you're parking a truck or an RV or you've got a work van coming and going, you want 5 to 6. An undersized slab under a heavy vehicle can crack inside a couple of winters. That's not a slow decline, that's a fast one. Then there's the mix. And in Wisconsin, this one's not optional. You need air-entrained concrete rated for freezing climates. I'll explain exactly why in a minute, but non-air-entrained concrete in this state spalls badly. It just does. Drainage is next. You want positive slope, meaning water runs away from the house, off the slab, gone. Water that pools on the surface or worse underneath it quietly takes years off the life of that driveway. And then sealing and joint care, which is the piece you actually control. Sealed on schedule, joints kept filled, that's 10 to 15 extra years of usable surface. That's not a small bonus. That's the difference between replacing a driveway once in your life and replacing it twice. Quick note on reinforcement, because there's a myth here. Rebar and wire mesh do not stop concrete from cracking. That's not what they're for. Concrete's going to crack, it's a rigid material sitting on ground that moves. What the steel does is hold the pieces tight together, so a hairline crack stays a hairline crack, instead of opening up into a gap you can catch your toe on. Big difference in how a crack behaves over 20 years. Now let's talk about what Wisconsin winters actually do to a slab, because this is the whole story here. Concrete is porous. It looks solid, but at a microscopic level it's full of tiny channels. Water soaks into that surface, then it freezes. And when water freezes it expands, roughly 9%. That expansion happens inside the concrete, pushing the paste apart from within. Now do that dozens of times a year, that's Wisconsin. And here's the part people get backwards. The deep cold isn't the problem. A steady cold snap where it's 15 degrees for 2 weeks straight. The water freezes once and stays frozen. It's the shoulder seasons that wreck concrete. A February day that climbs to 38 in the afternoon, then drops to 15 overnight, that single day does more damage than a whole week of hard cold. Thaw, freeze, over and over. That's why a driveway design that works fine in Missouri behaves completely differently in Green Bay. Same drawing, different climate, different outcome. So if you're pouring in Madison, or Milwaukee, or Appleton, you should be specifying an air-entrained mix at 4,000 psi or better. And the reason air entrainment works is honestly kind of elegant. The mix has microscopic air bubbles distributed all through it. When water gets in and freezes and wants to expand, those little bubbles give it somewhere to go. Instead of pushing the concrete apart, the pressure vents into empty space. Without them you get spalling. That's the flaky pitted surface that looks like the top layer is peeling away. And the thing about spalling is it never stops on its own. Once that surface layer is compromised, water gets in easier, which causes more spalling, which lets in more water. It just accelerates. Okay, so what can you actually do about all this? Sealing, if you take one thing away, take this one. Sealing is far and away the highest return thing you can do to a concrete driveway. Sealer fills the pores in the surface so water and salt can't get in. It's cheap, it takes an afternoon. And it's genuinely the difference between a 30-year slab and a 45-year one, for a few hours of work. Here's a sensible cadence for Wisconsin. First seal goes on about 30 days after the pour, once the concrete has properly cured. After that, reseal every 2 to 3 years. If your driveway gets heavy salt or plow traffic, or it's in full sun all day, make that every 2 years. And timing matters. Seal in early fall before the first hard freeze, not spring. You want that protection in place going into the season that does the damage, not after it. On product for a plain concrete driveway, use a penetrating sealer, silane or siloxane. Those soak into the concrete rather than sitting on top, which means they won't peel and they won't make your driveway slick when it's wet. Film-forming acrylics have their place, but that place is decorative work. If you've got stamped or textured concrete, that glossy top coat is what's keeping the color from washing out, and it needs redoing more often. Want to know if your sealer's still working? Splash some water on the slab. If it beads up and sits there, you're good. If it soaks straight in and darkens the concrete, you're due. Now control joints. Those grooves cut into your driveway, they're not a design choice, they're structural. Concrete shrinks as it cures and it moves as temperatures swing. It's going to crack somewhere. The joints tell it where. You're basically giving the slab permission to crack in a straight, tidy, controlled line, instead of wherever it feels like. But joints only do that job if they stay clean and sealed. An open joint packed full of sand and grit stops being a crack control feature and becomes a funnel. It delivers water straight down under your slab, where it freezes and heaves and lifts sections. So once a year, go through them. Clear out the debris, the weeds, the old crumbling filler. A screwdriver or a proper joint tool works fine. Blow the joint clean and let it dry all the way through. Then fill it with a self-leveling polyurethane joint sealant, not standard caulk. Polyurethane stays flexible through the temperature swings. And do the same where your driveway meets the garage slab and the apron. That joint matters more than people realize, because water getting in there isn't just working on your driveway anymore. It's working on your foundation and your footings. Different scale of problem entirely. 2 more things: salt and standing water. Rock salt doesn't chemically attack cured concrete. That's a common misunderstanding. What salt does is make the surface freeze and thaw far more often than it naturally would. So you're not getting a chemical attack, you're getting a massive increase in the number of damage cycles. That's the real harm. So no salt at all on concrete under a year old. None. After that, use it sparingly and switch to sand for traction whenever you can get away with it. One genuine warning though. Avoid any dacer with ammonium sulfate or ammonium nitrate in it. Those really do chemically eat concrete, and they turn up in cheap bagged blends where you might not think to check. Read the bag. And fix your drainage while you're thinking about it. A downspout dumping right onto the slab, a gutter that overshoots, a low spot that holds meltwater every spring. Any of those will shorten the life of your concrete no matter how religiously you seal it. Last thing, when does repair stop making sense? Patching and resurfacing buy you real time on a sound slab. On a failing slab, they're wasted money. You're putting a nice surface on a problem that lives underneath. Replace rather than repair when you see widespread spalling across the whole surface. Or cracks wider than a 1/4 inch where the 2 sides sit at different heights. Or sections that visibly rock when a vehicle rolls over them. Or damage covering more than about 1/3 of the total area. That settling and rocking almost always means the base washed out or was never compacted right in the first place. And no topical fix survives that. You'd be resurfacing the same driveway in 3 years. So here's the short version: seal every 2 to 3 years, refill your joints once a year, go easy on the salt, keep water moving off the slab. Do those 4 things and 40 years is a completely reasonable expectation in Wisconsin. Skip them and you're realistically looking at 15 to 20. Same driveway, same climate, just maintenance. And the same logic applies to a backyard patio or any flatwork sitting out in the weather. If you're not sure whether your slab is worth saving, don't spend money guessing. Have somebody experienced look at the base and the crack pattern first. That'll tell you more than the surface ever will. That's what we do at Contractors Wisconsin. If you want a quote or just an honest read on what you're working with, get in touch and we'll come take a look. No pressure either way. Thanks for listening. Take care of that driveway.